The Ground Gospel radio station is again inviting you December the 9th at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Transforming Your Relationship. We'll be talking about the relationship killer. Yes, folks, there are others and a lot of killers out there. Things that can snuff the life out of your relationship, things that can put it on hold. Well, you know what? It's time to be aware of that, to be present with where we're at and how we converse and communicate with one another. So join us 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Get your friends and your family and just enjoy. Have a wonderful evening. God bless. Welcome again to Transforming Your Relationship. I am your host again tonight, Bonitto Grange, your relationship and life coach. Well, tonight we'll be talking about the relationship killer. Yes, folks, the relationship killer in your relationship. So what would that be? There's so many different things that could come up that can challenge your relationship. But one of the ones that really can challenge, of course, as you already know, is communication. You know what? Sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we don't get it so right. Sometimes we just get it absolutely wrong. And you wonder, well, what in the world did I just say? And you know what? We are all a work in progress. I mean, just recently, I was having a conversation with my wife, and I said something to her, and she had walked off. She wasn't mad enough. She just walked off. She never thought nothing about it because she had to do something else. She wasn't walking off because of what I said. It's just that she had something to do while she walked off. So let's get that clear up front. But as she walked off and before she came back, I said, you know what? Something I said to her earlier just doesn't sit right with me. When she came back, I said, you know, hon, you know what? I want to rephrase what I said, and then I rephrase what I said in a more loving way. Now, don't get me wrong. She wasn't angry or upset the way I had said it initially, but I felt a check in my spirit because I'm having a relationship journal with myself to see how I'm showing up on a weekly basis. You see, if you don't check yourself, you'll never know where you're at. You'll always continue doing what you've always done, and nothing will ever change. But if you want a situation to change, if you want something in your relationship to change, you got to do something that you have never done before. And something that you've never done, it's going to be uncomfortable. But that uncomfortableness, it's basically a success rate that you're gauging yourself because you're doing something different that's going to enhance your relationship. Well, let's take a look at what the Bible has to say when it comes to relationship, when it comes to communication. James 1:19 says, "Know ye not, my beloved brother, let everyone be quick to hear and slow to speak and slow to anger." If you're quick to hear, that means you're not going to speak as fast or say what you need to say right away because you're listener number one, and which is going to now cause you to be slow to anger. I wonder is the word. I wonder is that why a writer, Eugene O'Neill, stated that we were given mouth that close and ears that don't. And so that should tell us something. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no corrupt communication, let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, but only such is good for building up as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear it." And then Proverbs talk about 15:1 that a soft answer turns away wrath. That means a hard answer invites wrath. But he says a harsh word, it stirs up anger. If you want to continually be angry in your relationship, you're passing that on to the cat, you're passing it on to the dog, you're passing it on to the children. How about just checking yourself and see where you're at, where your communication level is at between you and your spouse or the one that you are involved with in your relationship. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. My Lord, if we again can allow this to just digest, to just make it digest and then regurgitate it and then digest it again, that our speech must be seasoned with salt, so that we may know if it's seasoned with salt, that means whatever I'm going to say is going to be palatable. Whatever I'm going to say is going to be inviting. Whatever I'm going to say, the hearer will want to listen to it. Why? Because what I'm about to say is seasoned with salt and not with vinegar, not with bitter herbs. And again, Psalms 19 and 14 says, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. And as I was going over that, I was saying to myself and individuals and clients that I basically have conversation with is the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart. Those that are faith based, are my words acceptable to God? What I'm saying right now, is God smiling down on me, or is He frowning on me of how I'm speaking to my helpmate, of how I'm speaking to my husband? Is He smiling? Is He frowning? So I check myself. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. So as we continue on here, we have you can have three different levels of communication. We can have level one, that is listen. Level one, listen. We reply, judgment, filters to respond. We're looking at cell phone, we're distracted. That's level one. We're really not listening. Okay, let's correct that. Level one is that we're not listening. We're listening to reply. We're listening to respond. We haven't even got the right information yet, and we are responding inaccurately. And you wonder why the other party, the receiver, might be getting up and be frustrated and all that kind of stuff, emotion that comes up, all because I responded, but I wasn't really listening. Hey, I'll be the first one to put my hand up there. That sometimes, you know what, I listen to respond, but again, I'm checking myself. Again, you should check yourself. Replying, I'm not going to reply until I've heard the conversation fully. I'm not going to reply with judgment. That's level one, listen. But level two, listen, I'm going to drop away a bit of judgment. I'm going to drop away my desire to give advice. Rather that I'm just going to simple listen. Let me tell you, you ask a lot of women out there. You ask a lot of wives out there that many times they come to us husband, and they're not coming for us husband to fix the issue of what they're bringing up to us. They just want somebody to listen to them. They want somebody to be there that they can vent to. And if they can't vent to their own husband, and who else can they vent to? So, husband, just learn to listen. Drop away the judgment. Drop away the advice. I've always said, if you don't know what to say in that situation, in that moment, you can ask the question is, how would you like me to support you in this moment? What is it that I can do to help you move forward? What is it that I can do in this moment to make you feel the way that you need to feel? And a lot of times, you know what? That wife might just need a hug. She might just need to know that my love is secured in you. When you hug her, it's like whatever stress that was there is now being relieved because you're showing her that you care, and many times you will care even without words. Level three listening is that's where we have the global listening now. What about the rest of their life? Like, how does that fit in? Like, what else is going on? We're listening for information. We are at level three listening. It's a global listen. You listen with your eyes. You listen with your ears. You are just listening with your whole being because you want to get that full information. You want to let them know that you are engaged and that you're going to be empathetic with whatever is going on in their life. I like, the story that the Bible talks about in John chapter 4 about Jesus and the woman at the well. The way that he approached her, he basically made a way that he could have a conversation, even though he knew what she was doing was wrong. But the way he came in, it's an example for us is that we can come in with anger, We can come with such harsh judgment that we shut down the conversation that we had always wanted to have. But when you come in with judgment, when you come in with accusation, you're going to shut that conversation down. They have already built up a wall. But when you read that story in John chapter 4, the way that he spoke to her, he allowed that wall to come down because he knew already where she was. And because he allowed that wall to come down, she became very instrumental in her community when she went back and told the community that she had met this man that she had never met before. But if Jesus had come in another way, if he had come in from a different perspective, and if he had come in unlovingly, that woman would have automatically built up a wall, and the information that Jesus was willing to give to that woman might not have been received as it should have been received. And many times, the reason why the information that we're trying to relate to our spouse or to our loved ones, why it's not being received, is because of how we come and bring that information. We're here to build bridges. We're not here to build. We're not here to build up walls. You know, can we not compromise when it comes to communication? Can we not compromise on a issue? Can we not humble ourselves and come together? Can we not find a solution rather than always talking about the problem all the time? We can open up a conversation if we allow to agree to disagree. You know what can happen most of the time in conversation between two individuals, when the conversation is finished, there can be one that has a win-lose mentality. One will always be coming that they want to win, and they're determined that they're not going to lose this conversation. They're not going to lose this fight. Well, at the end of the day in your relationship, you want to have a win-win situation. And in order to do that, there's got to be that spirit of humility from both sides. One cannot decide and come in with they are going to be bigger than this other one. They are going to be over this one. This other one will have to listen to them because you're right. Well, you know what? You can be absolutely right, but you can be absolutely wrong within the same situation, all because of the spirit that you brought into that conversation. I would rather have a win-win situation at the end of the day. We're going to agree to disagree. We are going to humble ourselves. We're going to listen to one another. And at the end of the conversation, we're going to see, so where is it that we can compromise so that I may not win everything? You may not win everything you wanted to, but at the end of the day, it's not about you winning, and it's not about me winning. It is what is best for this relationship at this time. We can always sit here and we can talk about the problem. We can talk about the problem. But when are we ever going to come up with a solution? Many have heard that says, finance is a problem in a relationship. Finance man, it says that this finance is killing me. But wait a minute. Finance will always be there. It's how you have handled it. Sometimes you might have enough, and then because of the decision that you have made, cause you now not to have as much as you had wanted to. And so what happened now, it becomes an issue. But finance, when you really think about it, is not really the issue. The issue really is how we communicate around finance, how we communicate around those challenges. We can sit and we can argue all day. We can have some destructive habits that's going to that's going to hold us down so that we can never come together. We can stay there and we can just blame each other all day. Some of these destructive habits. We can criticize and we can judge one another all day. We can want it to be right all day from now until the end of the weeks. Excuse me, we can be very dismissive. We can talk with lack of respect, destructive habits that will damage your relationship. These are killer things that will come in and will rob you of the intimacy that you should have. Lack of honesty, not being aware, even cultural differences that that one might have in their relationship. One might be from Canada, another might be from Africa, one might be from the United States, another might be from Europe, whatever the case might be. Sometimes there's cultural differences that can cause a challenge in a relationship. But if we just learn to understand, try to understand one another and where they are coming from, rather than have being misinterpreted all the time, destructive habits, manipulation, defensiveness, selfishness, misunderstanding. Misunderstanding could be a trigger. We thought we had the right information that were given to the individual, but on top of that, at the end of the day, they misunderstood what we were going to say, and what we have said caused them to trigger. You know, I will never talk like my wife, and my wife will never really speak like me. We speak individually, and sometimes the way that we might come across might I might miss a part of that interpretation or that conversation, all because of how I interpreted it. And the same likewise, but we can always come to an understanding. You know, when we speak, you know, there's three different things that's in that arena, that's in that atmosphere, that's in that situation, that conversation, and one of them could be it's our tone. It's our tone. Our tone can turn the other individual off, that they don't even want to talk to you. Our tone will come into play. Also, non-verbal communication. Not only is your tone, but the non-verbal communication that can also be a destructive habit, a destructive pattern in your relationship. And also what else can come in is non-verbal communication. The message is wrong. The message is wrong. Tone. It's just how we come across. We're trying to do the best with what we can, but the message is not being sent to the receiver like we thought it could be said. So watch your tone, watch your nonverbal communication, and just communicate the best of your ability without judgment. You can communicate your feelings without upsetting others. So here's how. Have you ever held back on saying something because you didn't want to upset the other person? There's always a point where you can internally debate whether or not to open up or say something. And it's vital that you take that moment to decide to go forth and communicate. I have a bishop that would say, you know what, if I'm going to communicate this, is it going to make it better or is it going to make it worse? So what he's saying, or what I've taken away from that is it's how I'm going to approach this situation, how I'm going to approach this conversation is going to determine how this thing is going to turn out. I want it to turn out good. So if I want it to turn out good, if I want to meet that elephant in the room, then I've got to know exactly how am I going to convey this information. Understand, learn to understand yourself fully at first. If you start a conversation off with anger or frustration or something else that fuels you to confront that individual, chances are you will already upset them. They've already left the room. They're right in front of you, but they've already left the room, honey. Just take a few seconds to see how you're going to approach and take some time to understand yourself first. Then, when you decide to communicate your feelings, you're going to have a clearer headspace. You'll be able and be ready to discuss more maturely. Decide what to communicate and what not to communicate. Someone asked the question, should I tell my wife everything before I get married? I says, well, you know what? That's really going to be up to you whether you want to tell her everything or not. But my question to you is, if this is something that's going to come up as a roadblock down the road, if it's going to be something that's going to be damaging to your relationship, you know what? You might as well face that elephant in the room now rather than later. I've known individuals that before they came to the altar and said "I do," individual had told the other party about some situation that they were in, and it was some pretty heavy baggages coming into the relationship. But the individual was saying, you know what, it's better for me to tell them now rather than even for them to hear from somebody else later. It's better that they hear from me. And you know what? If she loves me, then we're going to make it together. And then if not, then I have to accept whatever the outcome is. But that other individual heard what the other party was saying, felt sympathetic or empathetic for that individual, and they basically said, you know what, we're going to get through this. I know it's a bit of baggage that's there, but you know what? When you really think about it, we all come into a relationship with some kind of baggage. Don't act like you didn't come in with none. We all have some kind of baggage when we come to a relationship. And those that's been baptized in Jesus' name and filled with the Holy Ghost, well, we would hope our baggages was also buried in the watery grave. But even when you come up, there's going to be some times when the flesh is going to rise, when those baggage are going to try to still latch onto you. But you've got to just rebuke that thing and tell yourself, you know what, I'm not back there anymore. I am moving forward. So this last example I told you about this couple, well, you know what? It sounds like he's a keeper. It sounds like she's a keeper. I mean, if they can get through to the conversation that they had, I can tell that down the road, there is no harder conversation than the one that they just had. Yes, there's going to be some other challenge, but if they can always look back on this time when we have this conversation, when we could have both gone south and one has gone north, but we stuck it out together because you know what? It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about the relationship. One thing that can damage, another thing that can damage your relationship is, sometimes, can I be honest here now? Sometimes we talk too much to other people about our business, which they have no right even hearing about. They come in and they hear this and they hear that. And these are friends that you thought you might have trusted, but somehow they lack that confidentiality. And so what happened? You've opened up about your emotions. You've opened up your vulnerability. You're really willing to talk some serious stuff about the individual, but you better learn to trust that individual, or just don't say nothing. I mean, there's got to be somebody that I believe that you can go to and talk to. But man, you should be able to. I know so many times it's not possible, or it's challenging, but those hard conversation, need to be had between you and your wife. If it be a third party, well, let it be a counselor or a coach. So they're not for either party, but they're there for the best that will work out for the relationship. Also, be independent when it comes to have those conversations. It might seem counterintuitive to think about being independent when you're opening up to someone, but it's a big component of a healthy discussion. Despite your relationship with your spouse, you are you, and sometimes, like I've said, the way that you say things is not going to be the way that she may have wanted to say it. She may have wanted to say it differently, but at the same time, we're not comparing our style here. We're just trying to move forward as challenging as it may seem. So I'm going to be me, you're going to be you. Let's just work this thing out, whatever it is that we need to have a conversation about. Let's just bring our walls down. Let's just put our guns away, and let's come out of this with a win-win situation. We need to be responsible. We need to be responsible for your feelings. You need to be responsible for your action. You need to understand that no one is responsible for making you feel a certain way other than yourself. You as an individual need to have power over your own spirit rather than allowing others to have control and power over your spirit. When a husband speaks to a wife, when he listens with even with his eyes, she feels important. She feels important when he asks her questions, or vice versa, and make sure they know what you're actually trying to say. They will feel connected. When you show that you understand the other party information, you understand what they're trying to say, you understand their feeling. As a wife now, she will feel valued when you give the individual space to talk. They will feel free. Communication can be challenging, but it doesn't have to be. Like I said at the beginning, what's the level of the oxygen in the room? Because the less there is the least that you will speak. And if anything is going to open up, if there's going to be a freeness, we're just going to have to meet that elephant in the room. So if you're willing to get uncomfortable, to be comfortable, hey, let's connect and have that hard conversation that you may be avoiding. If it's not going to go away, you will have no peace. And at the end of the day, how beautiful it is to have peace. At the end of the day, yeah, I worked in the oil and gas for many years, and I used to say when I was in management, at the end of the day, I'm going to have peace at all costs. In other words, what I was saying, hey, you know what, guys? I don't have to be right all the time. And there's times when I'm going to be wrong, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to admit that I am wrong and ask for forgiveness. And I've had to have done that in the past where there was no conversation between myself and another individual. But I had to go and admit that what I had said was wrong. And after that, there was a peace that would just come over you because you're just doing the right thing. Rather than harbor all these feelings, rather than harbor all these emotions, why not have that time where you can speak to your husband, excuse me, and say, hey, honey, you know what? Excuse me again, we need to have a conversation. I need to be vulnerable with you. I need to say some things, that it might seem like I'm hurting you, but I'm not hurting you. I just want to express my feelings of how I feel, or how you have made me feel. And I don't want to feel this way anymore, so I have to let it out. Now, don't interrupt her. Don't try to cut her off. Let her speak, because when you let her speak, you are freeing her. You are letting her loose. You are releasing frustration from her. And at the end of that conversation, now it's your turn to decide, what is it that I need to do to support you? It could very well be after she said what she needs to say, or after he has said what he needs to say. Then it's time to say those words that are so hard in the English language, that, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. But again, like we said in one of our past programs in the past, instead of just saying, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, but how are you now going to change? I'm sorry, so how are you going to show up next time? I'm sorry, but what's going to be different moving forward? Will we end up back here again? So, yeah, I'm sorry, but give them a little bit more than just I'm sorry, and bring that connection back in the relationship. I'm Bonitto Grange, your relationship and life coach. Let's connect if you want to have a conversation. God bless you.
I'm transforming your relationships right here on HGG Radio with Elder Bonitto Grange. Join us again next week, Friday, for another program. This is Higher Ground Gospel Radio, reaching out the highest mountain and